Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in on this very fine Monday. Happy, happy, happy day to you. Super glad that you're here on Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. I am Kathy Holmes, and with me in the Zoom booth, I have one of my favorite reoccurring guests. Gypsy Hart is with us today. Welcome back to the program, Gypsy. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you again for having me on your show. This is really fun. I think it's been a little while since we done this Zoom version of it.
Absolutely. You've been on the television program a couple of times actually
Yeah.
since. And, one of the major reasons why we connect in this way is to let people know that you do some really, really cool stuff a couple of times a year. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what you do every spring and every fall?
Yes. So twice a year, I love to host the Nanaimo Wellness and Spirit Fair. And so usually I host it in May, the Mother's Day weekend. So we just passed on May 11th. And this time around, it's coming up again really quickly, September 14th, Saturday, September 14th, between 10 and 5 p.m. So yeah, the Nanaimo Wellness and Spirit Fair, and the website on that is wellnessandspiritfair.com. So if those of you that are interested in looking into that, it's a fair that you don't want to miss out on. It's lots of perks on it. Not only is there treatments that you can get there. You can get readings. There's lots of merchants. There's also speakers as well, and it's all free. So the admission is free, the parking is free, and also the lectures are free too. So the keynote speakers are definitely, you want to check them out in September.
So, putting on a spirit fair is a lot of work. There's a lot of different components to building it up so that so audiences when they come in
Mhm.
and they're visiting, or participants when they come in they're visiting, they're looking usually to find another way of feeling really good about themselves, right? We're all looking for solutions and practical tips that make sense, so that life's just a little bit better. What possessed you to do this? Because you've been doing it for years now. This is an ongoing event. Why do you do it?
Well, I've been running it since 2018, and I used to frequent lots of different events and fairs all throughout the island and like all through Vancouver Island and actually other islands as well too, the Gulf Islands. And I used to do readings, also offer self-care to those visitors that were coming. So I do mini treatments. Used to
Mhm.
really, really love that. And always really enjoyed being part of the community and connecting all the wonderful people that I've met. So I've always carried that in my heart, but also my heart also said, that I'm meant to also run these type of events myself. So I started it up and just kind of went for it. Connecting with community is a really big part, but also supporting small businesses is a really big part of why I do this and hold space for these people who really want to explore their passion work, right? So, and a lot of them, because they're in their wellness, in the wellness industry, are doing also the very same thing. They want to help other people, their people in their community. So, again, it's like being part of a cultural tribe of, being in our community on Vancouver Island is a really big part of it. There's so many wonderful um, businesses, small businesses that are thriving, doing what they love. So, and a lot of it is healthcare, right? Putting
Sure.
out there, not just for like focuses are all on all levels, right? So there's body workers, there's spiritual workers, but there's also mental health workers, so there's a really big part of it. And we hit all demographics, right? From not just from kids, but right to adults and seniors as well too. So no one misses out on that. Especially with running these type of fairs, I really love the fact that there's always a huge variety of demographics that come and take part in it, right? Or not just on the business level of showing what they love, but also taking part in it, right? So they'll spend all day getting, some pampering. Maybe they're trying some kind of new system out there that, one of the vendors is showing, like maybe it has to do with figuring out what your body type is and what
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
foods you should be eating, so there's a lot of nutritionalists as well. But there's also some body work. So maybe you want to get a massage, so all these different mini little services that you can try out. And not to mention all the, the more metaphysical side of things too. So, we've got readers there that are there to, they'll do all types of readings from tea leaf reading to tarot. They do mediumship. So really there's a whole variety for a little bit of something for everybody. And of course,
Mhm.
also the merchants. The merchants are fantastic because a lot of them make their things from scratch, from their heart, with their own hands, whether it's soap, whether it's, they're selling really cool jewelry that they've made with different kinds of gems. And I don't know, there's special touches definitely in it. I've got some really amazing artists that are spiritual artists. So, they paint through their intuition and their,
Mhm.
so it's really neat to kind of see some of this gallery of different, art forms, but they're all on levels of energy, right? So that's what's
Oh,
cool about it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do think it's important that we look after community in that way and that we're
Oh,
sharing our resources. So,
absolutely.
having
Yeah.
that option and let's face it, come fall, it starts to
Mhm.
cool down a little bit. Temperature is dropping. We are, I mean,
Yes.
we still may have beautiful Septembers, don't misunderstand me, but the temperature begins to drop. And so we start to really think about what might I like to do? What might I like to learn in the fall to just be a little bit, more
Mm,
aware of certain things. So having the workshops as part of this, I think can be really, really helpful when people are trying to figure out, who do I want to be this season? Who do I, as I'm changing, as the
yeah.
systems are changing, as I'm, like, how could I potentially feel better about the way I do my everyday business of living? And so I think that this is a brilliant
Mhm.
way to do it. Speaking of workshops, is there a couple of particular topics that you have in mind this time around?
So a lot of the lecturers will have their own topics, and so they'll centralize on, I mean, educating the public, right? So, for example, I've got a speaker. He's going to be, talking about microdosing. So
Right.
so it's interesting because that's a really big part of people are more curious about what is all this,
Mhm.
mushroom microdosing, right? So educating the public is a really big part of why I like running these fairs is because these lecturers that do come, they do about 45 minutes each, and I have about 6 of them that run through that 1 day fair because it's only a 1 day fair.
Mhm.
And some will talk about other different things about how to handle grief, for example.
Mhm.
Um,
Very important
and
subject.
just
Mhm.
yeah, interesting, so there's like it's never ending on what type of topics, which is really interesting on what people come up with, right?
Mhm.
And on
Mhm.
their spiritual practices or their holistic practice. But it's about educating because that's how people delve into trying something new, is hearing
Mhm.
about it, and then absorbing the information and taking it home and doing something that, is meaningful to them, right? So
Mhm.
that's the
Yeah.
best part about it. And self-care is a really big one. We start to kicking up a couple notches for the fall for sure, because we start to think about, especially on this island, we get a lot of rain. And so we have to
Mm.
kind of start thinking about what kind of things are we going to start getting ourselves more into, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
like one of my exhibitors is she teaches Kundalini yoga. So, educating the public about that. She has a college, a school that she teaches other practitioners as well on Kundalini yoga. And so how wonderful is that? And being part of that, she'll also be one of the speakers. So, so there's a little bit of a variety each time I run these fairs. It's never, definitely never dull. It's lovely to have everyone combine and come together. And again, and I also have a benefactor for this September
Yeah,
14th as well.
absolutely. Mhm.
Yes, and this time it's volunteer Nanaimo.
Yahoo!
Yeah,
See, I
so
love volunteer Nanaimo.
yeah, I know. I remember we did a segment on that
Yeah,
when we were doing it on Shaw. So I kept in touch with them, and so we're kind of
yeah.
hosting them as a benefactor, and so they'll be there as well, educating others in the community about what Volunteer Nanaimo does as well.
Yes, and Volunteer Nanaimo is, first of all, an incredible organization. We
Hmm.
certainly support Volunteer Nanaimo in a number of ways.
Hmm.
But I love the fact that they can be a benefactor and share their wisdom with the
Yeah,
community as well. They've been around a good long time and they do some incredible, incredible work for all of us in the city of Nanaimo.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but
So
not
they'll
only
take
that,
donations, they'll do donations as well on premises, but there's also, if you go on to the wellness and spiritfair.com website, there's a
Mhm.
way that you can also donate right through the website.
Which is great. Yeah, fantastic.
Yes.
And because this show, just as a heads up, I mean, of course, with Act Three, we are all the way
Mm.
down to Duncan, and we go all the way to the
Oh, yeah.
sort of the Bridge of Courtney, and then over to the Sunshine Coast. So our listeners, for people to drive into Nanaimo, it's not a long drive. It's a wonderful way to spend the day.
That's
Have it
right.
as an outing, try things out, see what you can enjoy doing, take a little stop along the way, grab yourself a cup of coffee or a beverage that you enjoy, and just really make a big day out of it and enjoy it. And if you're not able to actually attend the affair and you're listening to our show on iHeartRadio or on Spotify or on YouTube and other forums, what you might find is by going to Gypsy's website, you'll be able to have a look at some of the ideas that are there and then contact some of the vendors through your website, I would suspect, or at least you'll be able to hook people up so that they can find the people that have been coming to your show.
Absolutely. We also
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
Facebook page as well, which is the
it's very
Nanaimo
important.
Wellness and Spirit Fair. And so there, a lot of the exhibitors will be posted as well as the speakers. A lot of the information is mostly updated on the Facebook page, Nanaimo Wellness and Spirit Fair. So it's easy to find. You can like the
Yeah.
page or follow it. And be informed that way as well too. So and do remember, it's also held at the same location, which is the Cavalotti Lodge, and it's 2060 East Wellington Road. And that is a lovely Italian community center. It's surrounded by trees and grass, lots of parking. So definitely come out. There's also a food truck that will be on premises, a healthy food truck that's there all day for you so that you can spend all day and enjoy taking in, from doing the presenters or going and trying out something new, or just having discussions with a lot of the exhibitors that are hosting.
So I'm going to step a little bit away from the event now because
Mhm.
I think that we've shared with the community like that this is
Yeah.
available. I want to come back to it, but I want to move into some of the other things, Gypsy, that you do because the Nanaimo Wellness and Spirit Fair, it is an annual event. You do it a couple of times a year, but what people might not know about you is that there's some other things that you do in community that people might want to take advantage of and enjoy, not just on a couple days a year, but actually on a regular basis. I know you teach yoga, and you know you've been doing it for a long time. Why not tell us a little bit about why you got into yoga? Because I know that that's always important. And, tell us a little bit about your classes and how people might be able to enjoy your works there.
Okay. Well, yoga is my passion. It really is something that has kind of stuck on me like glue for pretty much, I feel like almost like a lifetime. Because I've been
Yes,
practicing for
yes.
so long. And so, I started as a student and started to evolve more and more as a teacher, and more so here on Vancouver Island in Nanaimo. And I kind of started that path with just opening up a new door, coming here to the island. I really wanted to kind of explore what kind of health benefits does this island really offer? And yoga was a
Hmm.
really big part of it because it can connect to all demographics of people. And so when I started teaching, and this has got to be at least now probably 18 years. And I've really enjoyed, especially working with a lot of the yoga studios here locally, but I mainly love teaching at the city of Nanaimo. And so City of Nanaimo offers Parks and Recreation, and I offer probably about 7 or 8 different classes there currently coming up. September is where you want to be starting some new programs, and registration is open at this time through Parks and Rec, which is City of Nanaimo. And take a look at some of the programs. Scroll down into the yoga section of the online program, and that guide will guide you in so many different ways. There's so many beautiful programs, and some of them are, for example, chair yoga. So I call it chair yoga Pilates because I like to include a little bit of weights. And so that is definitely for not just an older demographic. You might have had an injury or something, and you're trying to do some strength training, something safe, and you want it to be stable and secure. And so chair yoga might be the thing for you, where maybe you can't get up and down on a mat, right? So I really find that the chair yoga is definitely something that speaks to a lot of people, because I do have quite a
Hmm.
few different, some are just doing rehabilitation because they've injured themselves and they just can't do anything else. It's too much for them. So the chair yoga, you'd be surprised what kind of workout you can get in a chair.
I agree. In
So,
fact, when I got sick last year, that's exactly what I
right?
started doing was chair yoga,
Oh
and boy,
yeah.
boy, it
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
all the difference. I
It
found
makes a huge
myself
difference. It
the
allows you to move and
clearness, the movement of the blood in
yeah.
the system,
Yeah.
like all of that really did make it was a very,
Exactly.
very good decision to try to, and it was
Oh, absolutely.
surprisingly, respectfully,
Yeah.
it looks so easy. It's not. If it's
It's
done
it,
right, you notice that you've
it's a little
had.
bit of a workout. I know it's like it's nice because I try to make it easy, and then at the end of class I was like, wow, I really got a workout. Sometimes more than in any of my other classes. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is great. And I love how everyone keeps up and is always very full of joy. And I have a
Mhm.
great following of students, and I love seeing new faces. And it's nice to kind of pass it on to other people, because I don't think a lot of people are even familiar or aware that there is something like chair yoga. And I love teaching like all demographics, right? So I even run a men's only yoga, and I've been doing that for probably at least 16 years now. And it's focused on men wanting to come into the practice. And I actually have a really dedicated following, which is wonderful. And so it's because there's sometimes a stigma that, oh, yoga is for flexible people or yoga is only for women, but it's actually not. It's for
Mm-mm.
all demographics. I teach men as well as kids. Lots of kids. Yoga for Kids is a really popular program as well. And it's great to start them right from young and get them
Yes.
moving, socializing. And such a huge perk. I just love teaching the kids as well. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
it's,
and I'm curious just because, and I know we're
yeah.
we're past all the COVID stuff, so like I don't want to
Yes.
close
Oh,
us
yeah.
down that back door, right? I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully that's okay. But what I
Yeah.
did notice is that I've seen that these classes are starting to get larger and larger again
Yes.
because people aren't afraid anymore. It's starting to get,
Yes.
I mean, COVID is still out there, let's face it, but it's there was
Yes.
a time when nobody was interacting. How are you finding your groups now? Is it true? Are they expanding and becoming larger?
Yes.
People
They
trying?
have. And even
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah.
having conversations with still people who have been maybe students in the past
Mhm.
and are finally stepping forward and coming back into like, Gypsy, I haven't been to your classes for so long, I'm finally integrating back again. And so you're still seeing a lot of that. And it's great because it's wonderful to see them coming back into their practice and feeling really good about themselves and not feeling like, cooped up at home or whatever it is
Mhm.
that. And yeah, it's all part of integrating in. They'll be sometimes surprised that they see some familiar faces in the class, right? So the programs are running pretty much full kilt right now. So I always suggest to register as soon as you can. Some of my classes actually get filled up within not even less than 24 hours. Like sometimes they tell me like, oh, it's booked up already now, and it was only
Yeah.
2 hours into registration opening. So I'm like, wow, I've never seen that before.
That's
But
great.
that it
Yes.
and so don't be discouraged. Get on the wait list. Most likely I can get you off the wait list or register for the next a series or module that starts up again in October. But you can
So,
do it
how long are the
now.
modules? That's a good point, actually. So,
Yeah.
are they a 6-week module, 8-week
Yeah,
module
most of them
usually?
are
Yeah.
5 to 6 weeks
Uh-huh.
in range. Some of them will range even 8 weeks, depending on,
Mhm.
if there's a holiday or something kind of sprinkled in there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because we don't, the center is usually closed on a stat holiday, so we kind of bounce an extra week. And so, yeah, it depends on the programs. But yeah, a lot of fun. One of my new ones that I'm adding on is restorative yoga with sound healing and meditation. So that's
Mm.
starting up on the Thursdays at 9 a.m. And that's in the September Parks and Rec guides. You'll see it there and it'll say new right next to it. So I really encourage those who are looking for more of a restorative class. So we stay on the mat. We use props like bolsters, blocks,
Mhm.
straps.
Mhm.
It's nice to ease your body into a pose, and amazing the benefits and the healing you receive from these restorative poses. And
Yeah.
then I add sound healing into it, as well as we do meditation. So it's a really big part of reconnecting. I find even meditation is a really big one that more people are seeking
Mhm.
at this time because we have very busy lives, very busy brains, so we're trying
Yes,
to
yes.
get back in turn internally and focus on how just through meditation you can heal your body. So anything that ails your body, you can actually heal yourself. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's so woo woo, like, oh no, only my
Not
prescription drugs will actually do that for me. And
absolutely,
absolutely not, that's
absolutely.
not true. It's the more we focus in on how highly our bodies vibrate, and on a vibrational note, we really do heal ourselves. And we need to
Yeah,
like bring that education back into the community so that people understand that this is another outlet that is so accessible and it's inexpensive, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a time and I don't know if this was what you were doing during COVID, so forgive me if I'm going backwards again, but you were teaching some classes outside. Are you doing that this fall as well?
Yeah. So what I was doing is I was doing yoga online. So I was teaching online, but also doing outdoor yoga. That's something I've been doing for quite a few years, even
Mhm.
before COVID, but it really did bring people out to at least, not even so much socialize, but more so just do a practice. They could be as far away as they want from each other because we were doing it outside. So I only run those during July and August. So the classes end at the end of this month. So I only run it during the warmer months, which is July and August. I find as soon as we get into September, everyone's already coming into
Yeah.
my indoor classes with, Parks and Rec. And it gets cooler out. So it's not as much fun to be outside when it starts getting cooler, right? So
Yes,
yeah.
that's so true. And well, so as we mentioned earlier, September can be quite lovely.
Yeah.
As many months, it can be quite cold
Oh,
and
absolutely.
uncomfortable.
Yoga
So
in the
I agree
park
with you.
is a lot of fun. Yoga in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
park.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
the
we're
best.
coming, we're basically winding down on that because now, believe it or
Mhm.
not, our summer is like almost over, and
I know,
I don't want to say that out loud because
I
it's been raining
know.
for
I
days
feel the
now and
same
it's getting
way. I'm
cooler.
struggling completely with the whole life. I don't know
But
where the last couple of months have
yeah,
gone.
I don't know.
Everything is just ramping up so quickly.
Yeah.
But having said that, you're also ramping up. Like, I mean, it sounds like
Yeah.
you're expanding your world again, which I think is so fantastic.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I think that, if we're not moving forward and we're just staying stagnant, and that's okay
Yeah.
sometimes too, but when we're moving forward, we get to experience so many wonderful things, and that's such a gift to be able to share with the community.
Mhm.
I know that when we last spoke, you were also doing card reading and you were doing some
Mhm.
intuitive kind of work. Are you still doing that work? How is that going for you?
Oh, absolutely. That's never ending.
Right.
Working as a psychic and medium, it's the door is always open to everyone. So, um, because I've been doing readings for so long, probably at least
Mhm.
over 35 years, because I'm Hungarian and Romanian, so I kind of put that in my heritage. It kind of runs in my heritage. So I've always enjoyed doing readings. And so if anyone out there is interested in my readings, it's also on my website.
Mhm.
And book yourself in for a session with me. And it's just a nice way to explore something different. I find that people are sometimes searching for an answer and they just, can't seem to kind of nail on what exactly that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So the readings always open up a different kind of realm. And so if you never had a reading, and I'm actually amazed at how many people come for the very first time to experience a reading. And so I use different modalities for that, different tools, as we call it, of the trade. And so it might be a tea leaf reading. Maybe it's coffee ground readings. I'm probably one of the very few that do tea or even coffee ground. So that's a really neat way of kind of looking into your present time and also future. I try not to delve into the past. The past is kind of,
Gone.
it's
It's
been
done.
done
No
and,
need.
and it's
Done.
served us, and we'd like to move on with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then tarot is a big one. People love to do the tarot reading as well because it opens
Mhm.
up on so many levels. And of course, there's oracles. I do pendulum readings. Just, and the mediumship is a really big one. Certain people that want to connect with their loved ones that have passed on. It's
Mhm.
a really interesting way to uh, you know, look at what else is out there and how our
Mhm.
loved ones are sending messages to us at all times. We just have to be patient on seeing what the signs are. And so, channeling through me is also another interesting way of reaching out, right? So, yeah, the readings
Yes.
are I always really love exploring into, and I also enjoy doing coaching as well. So I do life and business coaching. So it's really interesting to see some of my clients completely transform themselves, going
Mhm.
from one type of life um, choices that they've made and moving into completely a different choice. So whether it's career, sometimes it's health. So I'll help guide them in any way that I can, depending on what their focuses are.
Mhm.
But some
Mhm.
people have are starting their whole life right from scratch. Like
Yes.
maybe they've moved on in a relationship. Maybe their kids are all grown. Maybe they're changing careers, or they've moved from one place to another and are starting from scratch. So helping and having someone coach you in giving you those options, and not to mention networking, right? Because I have a lot of connections, and I can also help my clients connect with others in the community that can help them get them back on their feet and focused on whatever that their focus is really on. So it's all about the transformations. I love it. It's pretty exciting.
No doubt. And
Yeah.
transformation is a wonderful thing because when you start to see one door open, one shift, then that
Yeah.
can just multiply on so many levels.
Oh,
You can start to
absolutely.
see how the world, and also if you're not necessarily on the right track or you're stuck, sometimes it's just really good to talk to a mentor, to talk to a
Yes.
coach, to say, I don't quite see, I don't know why I'm stuck. I don't get it. Like, to be able to get another point of view. Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
had some leadership in your life that has really inspired you to do this work? Has there been, one or two people that have maybe learned from, that you kind of went, oh my God, this is my calling and this is why?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people ask me like what kind of helped influence all these different paths. I
Yeah.
mean, because I am a very multidimensional being and I do a lot of different things, but it's because it's based on interest and a lot of my own guides lead me in that direction, saying, it's almost like a spiritual tap on the shoulder that says, hey,
Hmm.
you need to be doing this. And so I listen, and so I guide myself into that. Whether it, like for example, with the coaching, right? And I also do hypnotherapy. So those are passions of mine, and it's really neat to evolve. So and some things you do need to get some education behind, right? So
Of
I take a
course.
lot
Yeah.
of courses,
Hmm.
and because they're based on interest as well, and then you start to really apply it, right? So the nice thing about all the different modalities that I do is they're all very complementary to each other.
Hmm.
So I'm not really off the cusp. Like I'm not doing one thing and then completely something different. Like they're all blended together. So when I work with a client, I can offer them other things. Like for example, in the coaching, let's say my client wants to find a better lifestyle health-wise. They want to lose some weight. They want to find better ways of how to change their mindset on what they've been stuck in and how we can kind of unplug that
Hmm.
method that they've been on for so long with bad habits and whatever it is. And so we recognize them, put them in right in front of them. And so there might be, maybe it's yoga that I want to suggest to them, right? Moving the
Hmm.
body. Maybe it's the meditation. It could be healing the body first and then realizing that the mind gets healed after as well, or part of
Yeah.
the whole process together. So it's not leaving one thing without the other, right? So everything is very much blended in together, right? So, and it's
Hmm.
about educating um, those individuals, right? So, and for example, let's say I have a yoga student and they love yoga, but they need a little bit more work on their bodies. So they'll come to me for massage, right? I have different modalities that I offer as a massage therapist. And I am more a CMT, not an RMT, because I follow more holistic direction. So I offer like more relaxation massage, hot stone, reflexology, Ayurvedic head massage. I do lots of different kinds of, like shiatsu massage, lots of different kinds of massage and body work. So, that might speak to somebody, right? So it's neat to kind of,
Hmm.
move
It sounds like you're
into.
dabbling in a number of different
I
things,
love
but
it. I love it
all for the
because
purpose of
yeah,
wellness,
because
right?
every body is different and
Oh God,
every
yeah.
every mind is different. So everybody needs to be nourished in a different way. So I
Hmm.
kind of find that angle of what is going to be best on serving. And that's what I am. I'm of service, right? So that's always been my calling, and I really enjoy meeting people. And it's all part of, how can I help you? How can we and we help each other in a lot of ways, because you'd be surprised that that interaction is very healing for myself as well too. So it's all part of the connection and the relationships that we create.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you have you seen a trend, kind of emerging in the last little while regarding health and wellness? Is there, there's been quite a few things that we've seen. You were talking earlier about microdosing, and there's a great interest in that
Mhm.
for many, many people. But there have been, along with it, there have been some other kinds of modalities, not modalities, pardon me, practices that are are sort of um, newer on the horizon. Have you seen some real
Mm.
changes in health and wellness in the last few years specifically?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Actually, one of the biggest ones that I've noticed, and this is something that I've always been incorporating even into my yoga classes for years and years and years, is sound therapy. So
Hmm.
here people are starting to understand because the frequency is changing on this planet, their body is frequency is changing as well. So incorporating sound. So it's not just about listening to your favorite music or it's actually going to these sound baths, and immersing
Hmm.
yourself into all the different sounds just from laying down, closing your eyes, and then hearing all these like, little instruments that are playing around you. And it kind of travels in your body, and it's just amazing how meditative it is and how releasing it is. So sound
Hmm.
therapy is a really big one. It's taken off wonderfully, and I'm so happy to see that because it is part of integrating into. In a way, it's interesting because we are so overexposed with not only technology and YouTube and there's so many different platforms of music and everything else. It's like overwhelming to some extent.
Hmm.
But
Hmm. Yeah, for
but when
sure.
you go to a sound bath, it's so different because the energy is different. It nourishes us in a different way. So I highly recommend, again, one of my classes that I'm teaching starting in September is restorative yoga with sound healing as well as meditation. So it's a combination. The other trends that I've noticed is definitely the education on microdosing mushrooms and how that's starting to change a really big path. There's some amazing practitioners out there that are highly educated and can also help people move through some pretty serious stuff in their life. So maybe it's like past traumas, and you're still holding on to it in your body and your mind and your spirit. And so it's interesting, but always look at understanding that it has to be, you know, kind of stepped into with very highly educated people that are
Yeah.
have dedicated themselves to learning. Just like a acupuncturist, right? They're not just going to go up to anybody and start, poking pins into people, right? And needles,
Exactly.
needling, right? Where they needle into, like if you
Yep.
have nerve issues or anything like that. This is Chinese medicine. These are individuals who have taken years of schooling to educate themselves on how they're going to do this practice on clients,
Hmm.
right? So it's not something that you just, learn over a weekend and kind of go, oh yeah, like here, I can
I'm
do
so
microdosing for you. No, you don't want to be
I'm
doing
so
getting
glad that
involved.
you said that because I do know that there's a lot of people
Yeah.
out there who have the belief, and this did nothing, no disrespect to
Mhm.
anyone in out there, but I do think that there's something to be said for having that education and that support behind you because
Yeah.
I especially if you have you may be interested in something, but that doesn't necessarily make you an expert until you've done that training, and certainly with things like
Absolutely.
microdosing, particularly when we have such a concern right now over mental health and
Yes.
wellness. We do want to be
Absolutely.
cautious on that for sure.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
what one of the things that I found really interesting through the conversation that we've had today is not only about the trends and things that are coming on, but also sort of this concept of the transition period in our lives. When I first heard about sound bath, for example, I always thought it was basically Indian sound bowls, right? Or
Mhm.
cultural sound bowls, which are really terrific. But sound bath is more than that, right? It's not just the bowls, it's a lot of different sounds that come
Mhm.
into play. And most of the people that I know that have tried that feel this new sense of peace that they haven't necessarily
Mhm.
felt in other ways.
Mhm.
Is that what brings you to it? Is just this constant urge to find a place of
Mhm.
consistent peace in our lives?
I think so because, you know, people are realizing how triggered they become over the years. Maybe they used to like shrug things off a little easier in the past, and maybe now they're realizing that it's so overwhelming out there. There's so much going on, like because I guess maybe it's the exposure of news and everything else, and you know, like I mean, it's interesting how we have to be very mindful. And I always tell people this. This is one thing that I think people should be a little bit more mindful with. Let's say you and I go to a coffee shop and we have a conversation together,
Mm,
and we end up having conversations about, I don't know, world issues, you know, stuff that's going on. Or it could be just even things that are going on in our city, for example, you know,
mhm.
with all
Sure.
the, you know, the homelessness and the drug addicts and all that. So we have to be very careful with the conversations. And I think that that's what people should be more mindful about, is that other people might overhear our conversation and it might affect them in a certain way, cause them stress. It could actually, you know, heighten their anxiety. It can trigger certain things, right? So then what's happening is these individuals will end up having social issues. They won't be able to go out as much because they're hearing so much bad news and things on like, oh my gosh, you know, so and so died. And, you know, like, and it's just what I think we have to be very careful of is what kind of conversations are we having, not only with each other, but also in the spectrum of that. There's other people in our field of energy, and that they're also feeling this energy too. So we have to be a little bit more, I think, a little bit more cautious about that, because we're just going on a rampage on a lot of things. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's why people are looking for this more like-minded space where they can attend a class like a sound bath and lay on these wonderful like blankets and pillows and close their
Mm.
eyes and not have to like worry about anyone having conversations with them or anything to that. And they don't have to move. They can just be still, which is something, maybe something that they don't do much of. Maybe they're always on the go, always moving. And I think even for those specific people, like a restorative yoga class, you know, or something like a sound bath where you're just motionless and just enjoying the sounds that the practitioners are creating, is really, I think, what our soul needs, because we're so deprived of that. And because, you know, you're only going to hear you hear these sirens all the time, or there's people yelling down the street, or, you know, you know, you're triggered constantly with all these negative sounds, which can affect our mental health and our well-being, on a cellular level even. And you might not even notice it, you know, and you probably don't even notice it until, like, for example, you go camping and then all of a sudden you're in the trees and you're in your little camper and you're like, it's quiet, and then you make a fire and you're like, wow, I can hear the popping of my fire, and you know, or the smell of your coffee, you know, and it's like you get to see the, you know, maybe it's the ocean, maybe it's a river, maybe it's a lake, and it's so serene and pristine, and you just wish you could just like stay there forever. And I know what that feeling is like because I'm a nature girl too, and I love like going through the forest, and that is like a sound bath in itself, because I'm always pulled into the sounds of the birds, and I've actually gotten really good at now identifying certain birds and their sounds and their songs, and it's like fascinating to me because I didn't even realize that one bird can actually have 6 different sounds. And so it's so unique to like, you know exactly, not to just shut that out, but actually observe, you know, really be an observer of your surroundings, right? So tuning in.
I agree. I mean, obviously, I'm a camper and a sailor and all of that
Yeah.
stuff,
And
and
a
I
sailor
know
too,
that
and I've been sailing too, and I love
the
it.
sailing is the very best. I will not
Yes,
deny there's something
yeah,
really fabulous
there
about
is.
the
It's
being on the
magical.
water and that nature and
Yeah.
that. the powerfulness of this beautiful earth that we
Yeah,
live on.
absolutely.
And having said that, you're quite right. You know, we need to be mindful on how other people are around us. I know that very often we kind of go through the business living and we are so busy, you know, just being into our own selves and into the things that we're doing, that we can be really neglectful of those people that are around us. And people are ultra sensitive now. They need to have that
Yeah.
moment where they're not having to deal with you know, the negativity that's around. And you're quite right. I mean, I had to, although recently I've been of course opening up a little bit more to the news because there's a lot going on, but there are moments in my life, Gypsy, that I just have to shut it all off. I don't want to know about all
Yeah.
of those things because my own mental health and physical health require me to shut it
Yeah.
down in order to find that sense of peace. And we have so many answers with that inside of ourselves if only we would listen. We know
Oh, yeah.
what we need, you know,
Yeah.
we know what vitamins we're missing, we know what exercise needs to be done, we know, but we often need a little bit of guidance just to get us to that place again where we can remember what it feels like to feel good again.
Oh,
um
absolutely. And I always find that, any ways that is going to, maybe it is, your favorite song and you want to put your headphones on. But I find now another thing that has really become a big trend as well too is podcasts. So
yes,
people will tune into something they really want to listen to, something that they really want to educate themselves on, or maybe it's someone that they really want to follow because they're inspiring. And so that's a really big trend as well too. And podcasting has been around for ages, long,
long
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 time.
time.
But, and it's all basically, yeah, it's like on that radio platform, right? So, and we were kind of talking about that earlier. And so I think that, it's really interesting to kind of move into that. I'm actually going to be launching my own podcast starting sometime September or October. We'll see when I can actually fit it all in to launch it. But I've definitely gotten started on it, and it's called Intuitive Source with Gypsy Hart. And so that I'm really excited about launching that. And so I'm going to have interesting people that I'm going to be interviewing as well on all levels, from the metaphysical to the spiritual, holistic, a variety. I'm going to come up with all sorts of really fun topics to talk about and educate people who want to tune in. And I mean, it's going to, who long, it might take like years to even get that off and running, but it'll be fun just to kind of put something out there, even if it's once a week, and just have an interesting topic to, communicate with others and have people listen in, and see where that goes. But I think it's just another form of where people will now be a little bit more particular about what they're soaking in, what they're listening in on, right? So, for example, I had a conversation with someone who says, "Oh, I don't watch like any Netflix or any kind of movies or anything. There's just so much." Subliminal things out there that are affecting their health, their wellness, their brain.
Yeah.
So they've shut that out, just like they have maybe with the news, right? And so yeah, it's interesting how people are becoming a little bit more aware and maybe only fitting in the time to listening in on something that they feel is going to nurture them, rather than, like be heavy on their shoulders, where they feel like, there's so much going on in the world, but I can't do anything about it. Right. And
And
that's
that is
burden
it.
sitting on the shoulders.
That's the perfect segue for those that are listening to Act Three. We're
Yeah.
always so glad when people actually tune into our program. And of course, if you've just tuned in, you're actually tuning in towards the end of the program. But you too can listen to our program on iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and all of our other sources as well. So thank you for bringing that up. Actually, so that segue was kind of perfect there. Listen, we only have a few more minutes left, Jen. We don't have a lot of time here, so I just want to go back once again to actually how people can reach you, how you can participate in the upcoming wellness fair, how people can find you on Facebook and your social media platforms. So I encourage people to go out there and do that. While they're grabbing their piece of paper to do that, I'm just going to let people know as we're closing out for today's program. Listen, you guys, every single time that you tune into CHLY 101.7 radio, you are going to find something on Chile that inspires you. And I'm delighted that you guys listen in to Act Three every single week on Mondays at 1 o'clock and all of our programming. It is fall, which means at Chile Radio, of course, we could really use a little extra, support as to keep these radio programs. They're all run by volunteers. Everybody who comes into the program that brings these radio broadcasts to you is doing it on their own time for your benefit. And so we do encourage you, if you've got an extra $5 kicking around, consider giving it to CHLY 101.7 FM because it really does make a difference for our programming. So please think about doing that. There's a whole bunch of really cool stuff that's coming up in September, including our newest episode of Act Three on Rogers now. It used to be Shaw, it's now on Rogers. So do make sure you tune in. It goes on 4 times a day, every single day, Vancouver Island wide. It is a singular program, but it goes on over and over again. And of course, as mentioned earlier, you can always find our programs on YouTube, on iHeartRadio, and on Spotify. So now, as I close out the program, there's 2 things we're going to do. Number one, Gypsy's going to share with us exactly how you can participate, and we're going to walk out with a little piece of wisdom. Gypsy, how do people find you?
Well, they can definitely go on my website, which is islandhealing.net. So that's my direct website. And you can also find me on Facebook, which is Island Healing. And also Nanaimo Wellness and Spirit Fair, which is on the Facebook page as well. Wellness and Spirit Fair is the website. Okay, so Nanaimo Wellness and Spirit Fair Facebook page, or it's wellnessandspiritfair.com for the website. And
And our next
islandhealing.net. Yeah,
time
what's that?
to be at that wellness fair is September the
Yeah.
14th, right?
That's right, September 14th, and that's where you want to be. It's on a Saturday. It's a one-day fair, 10 to 5, and it's free admission, free to park, as well as it's also wheelchair accessible too. I wanted to add in there too, because we can definitely have access. So there's stairs in the front, but it's a ramp and it's flat in the back. So you can come inside the Caballotti Lodge, which is 2060 East Wellington Road. And so that's where you want to, check out all the social media that's out there. And of course, listening to this show will also, pass it on to other people, share it, and let others know about the Wellness Fair on September 14th. And that's on a Saturday from 10 to 5 p.m.
Fantastic. I love having you on the program, Gypsy. Thank you so much for sharing with us, the
Thank
things
you
that
for
you're
having
doing
me.
and
It's always
what's
fun to chat with
going
you.
on.
Yeah.
My favorite part though of the radio program, unfortunately, we don't do it so much on the television program, although I do try to have it in the
Yeah.
thread. But I do really love the concept of leaving people with just a little bit of wisdom. As we close
Yeah.
out, if there was anything that you could share with our community as it relates to that sort of, what makes all of this
Oh.
so important, what might that look like for you?
I don't know. It's really about connecting heart to heart with community, and it's amazing how in different forms that it comes in, right? So whatever feels like it resonates with you and it connects with your heart, it's going to be good for you. So if it just feels wrong, and and you just feel like you want to kind of pull away from it, then listen to your intuition, because your intuition will never lie, right? It's really about how we listen to not only ourselves, right? So we don't get overwhelmed with everything else that's going on around us, right? So listen to yourself. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And when you're not listening to yourself, listen to Act Three on CHLY 101.7 FM.
Exactly. The
Okay,
way to
everybody,
roll.
that's That's right. Everybody,
Right.
that's it for this week on our
Thank
show. Thanks
you.
so much for being with us today, Gypsy Hart. Absolutely a pleasure. And to our wonderful listeners, listen, if you haven't had a good time in the summertime, there's still a little bit of time left. Enjoy it as best as you can. And don't forget to look out for each other. Have yourself a wonderful day, everybody. We'll see you next time on Act Three.
Right.